The Strait of Hormuz is experiencing a severe crisis in March of 2026 due to this direct ongoing military conflict that's happening there. Following a joint U.S.-Israeli attack on Iran on February 28, 2026, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, retaliated by declaring that the waterway was closed. And 20% of the global oil goes through this waterway. They actually didn't physically close it, but they've attacked multiple commercial tankers. They've caused a 90% drop in traffic. So that has caused oil prices to soar and a massive rerouting of global shipping. Right now, we're seeing a lot of volatility in the global oil markets. And this matters because oil touches almost everything in retail. Welcome back to the Richer Retailer Podcast. I'm so glad you're here. So what does the war between the US and Iran have to do with you? That's what we're going to talk about today. Listen, what I want you to know is that retailers everywhere are feeling this big growing sense of uncertainty right now and kind of continually, right? That has certainly been the case for a while. There's been global events, price volatility for so many reasons, all these geopolitical tensions, all this stuff going on, and they can seem so far removed from our store, right? Like, why is it that we have to pay any attention to it? But the truth is that these global shifts will eventually make their way into retail in very real way. And so the short answer for all of this is that what I know for certain is that there's so much in life that you cannot control, correct? But you owe it to yourself to take control of that, what you can, and to know the difference between the two. What you can't control, you have to let go. You can't give it too much of your energy other than to protest it and take actions against it, obviously. But what you can control, you have to take responsibility for in order to best protect you, your customers, your team, and your success. So from supply chains and manufacturing to transportation costs and consumer confidence, the shifts in the energy market that are going to happen or that are happening are the shifts in the energy market in oil, which I'll get in and tell you why it's happening in a second. They're going to create these ripple effects that we're going to start to feel in very practical ways. So today I want to walk through what happened, what's happening, and what it could mean for you and how we can think about and how we can address navigating these kinds of disruptions, right? Because when they do, they're going to impact, like I said, supply chain, product costs, because transportation costs will go up. Consumer confidence is going to be eroded because people aren't going to feel confident about everything. And then ultimately how people shop, why they shop, right? And if you've been in retail as long as I have, you've seen this pattern before. The 2008 financial crisis, through the COVID supply chain chaos. Actually, that wasn't even the right way of describing it. Through all the COVID chaos, right? Inflation spike, that whole shipping container shortage and port strikes. Through all of this stuff, we will, in retail, feel these ripple effects. And I've lived through all of these cycles in my own store, as well as guided countless clients throughout all of them. And so what I've learned, as I shared in the beginning, is that those who do well are not those who panic. They're the ones who adjust early and control what they can control and focus on that. So let's talk about what's happening. The Strait of Hormuz is one of the world's most important shipping routes that I did not know about until all this happened. And it's the most vital oil transit, really kind of choke point. It's bounded to the north by Iran and to the south by Saudi Arabia and Oman and UAE, the United Arab Emirates. This corridor, which is only about 30 miles wide at the entrance and the exit, it connects the Gulf with the Arabian Sea. The Strait of Hormuz is experiencing a severe crisis in March of 2026 due to this direct ongoing military conflict that's happening there. Following a joint U.S.-Israeli attack on Iran on February 28th, 2026, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, retaliated by declaring that the waterway was closed. And 20% of the global oil goes through this waterway. They actually didn't physically close it, but they've attacked multiple commercial tankers. They've caused a 90% drop in traffic. So that has caused oil prices to soar and a massive rerouting of global shipping. Right now, we're seeing a lot of volatility in the global oil markets. And this matters because oil touches almost everything in retail. Some would argue life, really. It's the transportation, it's the manufacturing, it's the packaging, it's synthetic materials, it's logistics. And when oil prices fluctuate dramatically, the ripple effects move fast through the economy. They move fast through the global economy, not just ours, but all around. And eventually they land in our stores, don't they? So there's this domino effect that happens on retail. So what that looks like is that first we have the rising fuel costs. So consumers are spending more to just get around, right? So that often can mean less discretionary income, not always for our clients. So number one is rising fuel costs. Consumers are spending more just to get around. And so that means that there can be less discretionary incomes. It's probably not going to impact your thumbs too much, but it'll impact the rest of your fingers and perhaps also your pinkies, right? Production costs are going to be higher because factories will pay more for energy, which will then increase the cost of goods. That all makes sense, right? There's also the fact that raw materials will become more expensive because many products rely on petroleum-based inputs. So number three, more expensive raw materials. That's going to be a fact because so many products rely on petroleum that's in that becomes part of what those raw materials are. Fabrics, plastics, packaging. That's what we mean. There's also going to be the supply chain disruptions. Like I just said, certain items are going to take longer to arrive or become temporarily harder to source, right? So the thing is that for retailers, this creates pressure from multiple directions at once. So I know the real question that you're asking is, should we really be worried about this right now? And my answer is, it's something to pay attention to, not to panic about. Do not panic, but you've got to stay thoughtful and watch the signals early to navigate those shifts just fine. That's the whole reason why I decided to talk about this today. It was actually the team that really encouraged me because there are some easy things that you should do and can do. I'm going to get to them in a second that will make a difference. And they're going to make a difference in your bottom line anyway, right? It's just a slight shift from some of the things we've talked about before, but I want to make sure that you know precisely what they are. So what we're seeing in stores, but of course it's still early on, is that suppliers are so far absorbing the costs temporarily, right? They're holding prices steady right now. I haven't heard of too many price increases, but historically, these costs will move down the line, right? Potential product shortages. Some items are going to become harder to keep in stock, especially if they rely heavily on overseas productions, obviously. And consumers might become more cautious about this. They might pay closer attention to pricing and value and everything. Number four is that we have this K-shaped economy, right? This has been going on since 2020 is the first time they started talking about it. And it's really about how there's the top income earners are disproportionately increasing compared to the lower income earners. Classes are really diverging, hence the K, right? So some customers will continue to spend comfortably while others are going to become much more price sensitive, right? What's still true is that the top 20% of earners, top part of that K for sure, drive 60% of the US consumer spending. So that keeps the overall economy afloat despite some broader hardships. And so what we have to do is navigate these realities simultaneously. And we can. Here's the key point I want to emphasize. People don't stop shopping during uncertain times. They don't. They most often change why they shop. We have seen this before, haven't we? Understanding these motivations is so critical. People shop for many different reasons. For sure, sometimes there's things that they need, right? So often in our stores, there's not really anything that they need, that they must have. But so that's why they're also shopping for joy. They're shopping for comfort, for connection. They're shopping to feel a part of something that's bigger. They're shopping for the experience. They're shopping for comfort. And retailers who understand these motivations can adapt and thrive even when the conditions around them are challenging and changing so much. So what can you actually do about this? This is what Millie stores like you do best. You don't panic. You don't react impulsively. You get strategic. Again, you focus on what you can control. You work to make smart decisions, and you work to stay grounded in the bigger picture. And so here are the 3 areas that I believe you, my dear beloved retailer, should focus on right now. This is what can have a big impact on your bottom line and on your top line, on both your sales and your profit. The first thing is to protect your cash by tightening your inventory strategy. I want you to watch your cash flow and avoid speculative buying. This is not the time to carry unnecessary excess inventory. I have many podcast episodes that talk a lot about this, and we will list them in the show notes so you can get them there. Chris will put them there just for you. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be taking a chance on trying something new. You for sure should still do that. That gives people a reason to come to your store, which is something I'm going to talk about later. But if it doesn't move, if it doesn't sell within 30 days, whatever this new thing is you're trying, take 20% off right now and just move it out. Do not hang on to things for too long now. That's one of the ways you can effectively watch your cash flow, is making sure that you're not carrying too much inventory on the floor. So you've got to focus on your best-selling products, making sure that you have your never out-ofs, that you have them in stock, especially if some of them come from overseas and you might be running out. This is a perfect time to invest in them. Any high-margin items you have, meaning items that maybe you buy for $5 and you sell for 15 or 20, get those now. Make sure you have those on hand. And any dependable sellers, you know what I'm talking about. These things are going to matter so much because they're going to give you agility. They're going to give you a way of taking action on your inventory. They're going to allow you to keep the best selection of inventory for your customers. And I'm defining best by giving your customers what they are actually buying, right? That's how we're doing it. All right, number 2 is to be thoughtful with your marketing. Your messaging matters so much. People want reassurance, they want value, and they want relevance. They want things that are going on right now, right? I know that this is a solid basic tip that I talk about so often, but I'm going to keep talking about it because you have to be reminded about it, and you can keep tweaking it to make it better. Every single thing that you talk about in your store should have an emotional connection. What's the emotional connection you have to this product? Is it because of your own experience with it? Is it because of a team member's experience with it? Is it because of the experience you had with the owners or the creators that you met at market? So make sure that your marketing is highlighting an emotional connection and experience. What do you do with this? What's your favorite thing? I'm holding this mug. It is of course a Jaliska mug, and it's a Christmas mug. And you're right, it's not December or even January, but I just love this because it brings me so much joy. And I have a fabulous tea that I've made in here. Holding this and feeling the warmth in my hands from this mug and the size of the mug and how I can wrap my whole hand around it, it just makes me feel safe and cozy and comfortable. That's a very different way of talking about a crazy, just little mug, right? And what problem are you solving? Well, in this particular case, you're solving the problem that it's easy to feel uncomfortable about how the world is crazy. Wouldn't you love something that's going to make you feel comfortable, right? Wouldn't you love that? And the other thing I also talked about was the usefulness of the mug. When I was describing the experience I had, I also described how useful it is. So that's what you want to do. You're not going to focus on price. Don't worry about price, because that isn't the most critical thing here. It's the connection that the people are going to have. It's responding to the emotions and why the people are buying. The other why behind purchases, this is actually where great retailers really separate themselves, is to get beyond the item and to think about your store. Why do customers come into your store? What problem are you solving? What emotional needs are you meeting? Take time to answer those questions with your team, because the more clearly you understand that, the stronger your store will perform. I know that for sure. All right. So we've covered, in talking about how retailers can respond, we talked about protecting cash and tightening your inventory strategy. We talked about being thoughtful with your marketing, not only about items, but also about your store itself. Now let's talk about number 3. Retailers who do well in uncertain times, they aren't reacting late. They're watching the signs early and taking action. So number one, watch for supplier pricing increases. That's usually going to be a big indicator. Watch for shipping or freight surcharges. And not you yourself, but tell your team. Make sure your team, the people who are checking in your items, the people who are entering your orders, tell them to watch for those things. And also watch for consumer behavior shifts. Are the people putting together smaller baskets online, or is your average sale shrinking? Check on that. Have you had slower foot traffic? What other consumer behavior shifts have you seen? Are people trading down? Are people looking at a Jaliska mug and really liking it, but then deciding to go with a no-name mug that, right, serves the same purpose, no judgment? Are they trading down? Make sure you're looking for those kind of things. My closing thought on all this is that retail has always been shaped by forces beyond our control. Heck, life has always been shaped. We've always been shaped by forces beyond our control. But one thing we can control here is how well we understand our customers. Because at the end of the day, retail isn't at all about products. It's about people. And the better we understand our people, the better we love on them and know why they're shopping, the stronger our businesses will be. And frankly, retail has never been a calm industry, right? There's always been economic shifts and global events and changing consumer behavior. It's honestly what keeps it fun and exciting, right? And as I said, great retailers don't wait for stability to run strong businesses. They build businesses that can adapt. They're building businesses as they're standing on a shifting foundation. You can't worry about it. You can't control that. So don't waste any energy worrying on it. Just stand and keep your knees bent so that you can respond, right? And the retailers who will win during uncertainty like this are the ones who stay thoughtful, stay close to their customers, and keep leading their businesses with intentions. Moments like this are exactly where the richer retailer identity matters. You've got to own that in your body so that you can stand firm in who you are and who you're serving. Because when the headlines, oh, geez Louise, feel so uncertain, it's easy for us to step back into reacting instead of leading. And that's what you're called to do as a richer retailer, is to lead for yourself, for your team, and for your customers. So be a richer retailer CEO, one who doesn't get pulled into panic about every single headline, one who zooms out and looks at their systems. Zoom out and look at your cash flow. Look at your inventory strategy and look at your customer relationships. Look at those things. That's what you have to focus on. And what I've seen over and over again is that retailers who feel these shocks, this shifting in the foundation, the ones who feel it the hardest are the ones who are already stretched thin with too much inventory, not enough cash, no clear systems. When you have good systems and strong margins, thoughtful buying, and clear financial visibility, meaning you can see where your numbers go, then global shifts like all of this become something you manage, not something that controls you. That's a big difference in mindset. You're managing something rather than allowing it to control you. If I were running my stores right now, the one thing I would do this week is I would review my top 20% products, my never out ofs, and I would make sure they are fully in stock and protected going forward. And I would just market more about them, even if I wasn't bringing as much new things in. We find so often with clients that those never out ofs are things that you're so used to selling, sometimes you forget about talking about them. So that's what you can do. That's what I would do right now if I had my stores right now. You see, the goal isn't to build a retail business that only works when the world is calm, obviously. The goal is to build a retail business that works when the world isn't calm, right? If you want to stay ahead of what's happening and what it means for your store, and if conversations like this help you think about your store in a bigger way and think about yourself in a bigger way and what you can do, if you're serious about building a stronger, more resilient retail business, please hit follow so you don't miss an episode. I'm so grateful you are here. I want you to know that you can ask us any questions. We're Retail Mavens on all social media platforms. And know this, you are astonishingly fabulous, and you are loved. Happy retailing, everybody. Bye-bye. See you next time.